Hello chess friends, this is International Master Valeri Lilov, and today I'm going to show you one of the most exciting traps I've ever seen in my history as a player and coach. Essentially, this is a trap I seen in a game that it was actually a local game played by a candidate of a master versus an international master, and that candidate of a master just crushed the IM. It was in a game I just saw and I couldn't believe. And then later on, I remembered a sequence and I put it in my computer. And I was analyzing it, and just it was incredible that every line was literally losing. I tried to find that line in books and so, but I couldn't see it at the time. And it was incredible. So I'd like to share that with you guys because it's such a beautiful, such a brilliant variation. So we're talking about the line with e4, d5, e takes to the d5, and queen takes d5. Now, of course, there's the line of knight f6 that black could do. There's also some other moves like g6, and we're not going to talk about them right now. Those are different variations. We just talk about the line after queen takes d5, knight c3, and the Bronstein variation, or the Python variation, that literally allows when black chooses not the move of queen to the a5, but he picks up queen to d6. Now this is important. Now what's so valuable to know about that line? When black's queen comes out to the d6, it comes down there. Now first off, what you need to understand is that he chooses to keep his queen at a more active position for a reason. And his reason basically is just one. He wants to have it flexible enough so that he can move it around. He wants to have it develop so that he doesn't have to start from scratch. And of course, in case white builds the strong center, he'd like to counter or attack against it. So this is what it's all about. That's what black is planning. Now of course, white's intentions are different. He can play the move of d4, and then after knight f6, knight f3. Now ultimately, after the move of knight f3, white just wants to do one thing, and this is what he actually has to do. In my opinion, everything that white wants to do, all that he wants to do, is supposed to be a quick development and further followed by a good chance to counter black's queen, as well as his whole development in the center, and the king too. These are just a few little things that matter a lot. So, what is black supposed to do after knight f3? I mean, his own development is not that great. That's the truth. So, after the move of knight f3, black is supposed to play a6. That's what he's going for. a6 sets it up for b5, and the intention is that black plays c4. So, what black wants to do is just to get a quick development, control over the center, and a support on some of the most valuable ensemble squares like d5 and e4 that really count. This is what black wants to do. b5 plus bishop b7, maybe b4 to follow up with 2. This is what he's going for. What white is going for? Well, that remains to be seen. But certainly the one thing that you love to do is to make sure he's ready. Oh yeah. White would love to be ready. It's not going to be too easy to do this, but we got to do it. Whatever happens, whatever it takes, we have to make this work. Okay? So, how to do that? How do we deliver? So, essentially, the thing about this is that it's just, there's no easy way out. There is no easy way to prove that this opening is wrong. Okay? So what you need to do, first of all, is to make sure you play actively. When you want to achieve something, no matter what, you must actually find out the way to put your pieces on active positions. When you do this, you will achieve one of the first goals: active and strong control and development. That's what we need to do. So being active is how it all starts. So make sure that you stay active. That last move, it's definitely in line with the idea. So after the move of bishop to the c4 as it is, things are actually looking better. So let's see what happens. The bishop comes out, black has a little more to worry, and certainly after that candidate, he has to choose. Now there are a couple lines. Let's talk a little bit about the line of b5. b5 is one of the main candidate moves with the goal that he drives the bishop out of the way. Also, intended in case white plays with bishop to b3, that black gets to counter the center with c5. Now this, of course, doesn't work, and it's not supposed to work either. It's a move that just fails due to the fact that most of black's pieces are really behind, and he's not supposed to succeed. If white, of course, plays d takes to the c, then queen takes d1, knight takes d1, e6, and then bishop b7 should help black to feel very comfortable, so that works. However, if white plays something like a4, we realize that the whole structure, if we could call it a structure for black, really fails down. And it fails down due to just one thing. He doesn't have anything to follow it up with. We have the a4 to counter the center. We have the fact that black is totally undeveloped or behind. And there's more. Oh yeah, there's just so much more happening in this position. It's not going to be easy for black to deliver anything good. You know, this b4, b5 is being challenged, and the rest is just bad. Let's put it this way. So that's not going to work out in any good way for black, and that's where it just goes bad. So for example, after a4, for instance, let's say that black plays with c4. If we play bishop a2, there is b4. Okay? But now in case of b4, white can just come back with his knight and make sure that after the development he's able to counter. So for example, there is the move of knight f4, and then we have rook e1 coming down, pressure against e6, and so on. If black, for example, chooses to play knight d5 in order to stay up with his knight in the middle, we have knight takes to the d5 and then short castles, followed by rook e1, knight e5, and so on. It's a very powerful position, and black has no development to back it all up with. Okay, now, of course, after the a4, there is a chance that black could choose to exchange. Now, on occasion, black plays the move of c takes to the d, hoping that perhaps by doing this trade, he's going to be alright. Is he going to be alright? Not really. The point behind that is that black would just choose to pick up and trade, and then the more he trades, eventually, the easier it's going to be for him to fix the problems, to fix the position. The thing is, this is just an illusion. Nothing is supposed to be fixed. White would do queen takes d4, knight takes d4, and then knight d5. It's going to help white out with the ability to set a brilliant knight. In case black exchanges, the bishop is going to come in there, which is just too strong for black to hold on its own. And this is only the beginning. I mean, there's just so much more coming from this. It's like a strong knight, beautiful pieces, fantastic control, and very little the black could actually do to make anything. It's like one of these very, very bad, difficult positions that you just cannot resolve in one or two moves. It's hard. It's really hard. And, you know, the interesting part of it is that just there's no way. There is nothing that he can do, even if he wanted. It's just super difficult. So pretty much the idea is, after that, black can play knight takes to the d5, then bishop e3, and we see just the development. Sometimes black could even try to play, the c4 doesn't work. C takes to the d. What if he plays b4 maybe? It just doesn't change anything. White still continues with his development. He still has this fantastic, brilliant control. And black still has a lot to worry because the majority of his own pieces just don't fit right where they belong. It's plenty of problems that are happening in only a couple moves. It's a very problematic, very difficult position to really defend with. It's not possible. Like, it's just, even if he tries to do something great, it's just not happening out there. Well, that's exactly what white is looking for. Now, if the bishop to the f4, in case black tries anything, say like queen d8, there's knight e5. If he plays a5, queen d3, we get an advantage because white's intending queen b5. Or otherwise, I mean, actually, after queen to the f3, there's queen f3 to little long side castles. The development is just simply superior. So black has a lot to worry about. Now, bishop b7 is a possibility, but then white plays along with a5, and the threat of bishop a4 is super big. Bishop a7, bishop a4, knight d7, and then d takes to the c. And so we can see that every single piece of black is super backward, and it has no chance to do anything. Now, there's the pressure in the d7, which will not allow black to castle. Now, pay attention about that, because this is very important. He can't castle. He can't not castle, actually, because his pieces are too far away, too down and terrible. And this is just awful. Like, in every single way, this is like one of the worst possible things to experience, and there's no way. There's no way out. It's just happening. So obviously this is bad, and then, you know, because of all these problems, because of the impossibility to do much more, in fact, things are practically solved. Now, are there other moves that black could try? No, really. These are just the only options, which shows why c5 is not working. Now, what if he plays bishop b7? Everybody will say, okay, Valeri, bishop b7 does the job. Come on. He's going to put the bishop on the right line. He's going to have it line-hearted on the diagonal. He's going to have it well put in order to advance. And he's going to have it, yeah. Let's stop with what he's going to have. Let's think about what he's not going to have. And what he's not going to have is a good activity. White can play knight e5 now, attacking f7. Now, the knight on e5 and the bishop e3 are making a great combination, but then what is this going to do? What if black just plays with e6 in order to block the bishop's route? If this happens, white's ready to continue with bishop f4, intending for knight g6 discovered attack against the queen or rook. And now black has problems. In case he plays queen b6, which looks like one of the most, well, useful moves, so to speak, in the position, that just doesn't work. And the reason is because if he does a move like queen to b6, white can do now the move that he really needs to, d5. If you're ahead in development, open the position. Opening the position simply makes it impossible for him to keep it up. And then in case of the exchange and the recapture, we realize how bad and how difficult this position is going to be for black. It's just not good. It really isn't. And I mean, this is only the beginning. It's like right after the move of knight of pawn up to the d5, the position is just becoming almost impossible to really defend with. And that's why it just fails terribly. Fails in a big time, and it makes it so bad and hard and difficult for black to ever defend in this position. It's just incredible. One of the interesting parts about this is how hard it is for black to find anything. I mean, like, look at this. For example, if he plays e takes to the d, knight takes to the d5, in case of the exchange or recapture, we get f7 under attack, and the black king is extremely exposed. One might argue that white's king is actually exposed too, but you'd see that white king can very easily castle, so it's not really that bad. White's king will castle quickly. He's going to go with rook e1. And black, I don't think the same thing about black. Black's king will take at least a few extra moves until he gets to do that. And I just don't feel like he has the same preparation. He's the same position. When the rook comes down to the e1, it's going to be a devastating effect of knight g6 and other tactical sequences coming out at once. What about black? Well, what about him? He really can't do much, can he? So, essentially, we could expect that he's not going to take. He plays c5, but then after d takes to d, f takes to d, and then queen e2, you can understand. Now, bishop e7 and queen e3 just doesn't work because black's being pinned. White will castle alongside, and then there's some other moves like that, which are not good for black. So that's not too good. If he plays c4, however, there is the sacrifice, and it may seem like black is a piece up, but take a look at his pieces. Every single piece that black has is either backward, behind, terrible, or just not playing. Basically, black has everything that a player would hate to have. And you know what's worse? He can't change it. There is no way that black gets to change this position. There's no changing. This is an already awful position with an already awful development for black, and an amazing plan. So after white's castle alongside, there's knight e5 to happen, and then there's so much more to take place. It's beautiful and awful at the same time for black. Now, speaking of which, of course we could expect that you play differently. I mean, I guess after that you may try to play, I mean, after bishop f4 with c5 and then d5. You see, this is actually the thing that is gonna happen. c5, d5, and I mean, like, okay, there isn't a way to play d takes to the c, but that's not too good. You exchange the queens and then take c5. There's knight takes f, but then black would just take f4. So d5 fits best because it does the one thing that we need to do more: open the position again and again and again. When you open the position, there's gonna be nothing your opponent can do. What is already backward, terribly placed, passive pieces, and the inability to make them work. That is exactly how it works, and why black's position just fails in this position in this moment, because they're just too backward and then too bad in order to fight out. After d5, essentially if black plays c4, knight g6, this loses, and if he plays with edicts to the d5, short castles, I really think that you understand how awful this looks for black. There's knight g6, which will quickly happen, but that's just one side of it. There's so much more happening. There's knight to the g6, there's rook e1, there is so much, and black just cannot hold it. It's amazing. This is why I often like to say that it's all about development. Really, everything is about development. The control, the position that you get, the stability, it's all about development, and black unfortunately can't make anything to change that. It's amazing. So this whole line with b5 really does not work for black, and it's incredible. Now what if he tries the other way, bishop g4? I mean, come on, Valeri, bishop g4 should do it. And then this is how black played in the game I witnessed. Remember that game I mentioned to you I witnessed? That's how black did it. Then h3, and then he played bishop h5. I mean, bishop takes f3, of course, fails due to the bishop pair that white gets in an open position. More than just a good idea. So black goes back, and what white did was g4. That may look like an incredibly risky move that you wouldn't like to take. You'd say, oh, no, come on, Valeri, this is just not a little out of my league. I don't want to play that. But then think of it a little further. The bishop g6, white plays h4. And now black has a couple options. Now, the knight x to the g4 is obviously the main one. So, however, black could try to play e6, h5, and then bishop e4. The thing is, after knight x to d4, knight x to e4, queen to d3, if black doesn't accept the sacrifice, white gets all his features, but he gets them for free. So pretty much it means that all he has to do now is just going to be to castle long and enjoy a pretty awesome position with basically nothing to worry about. It's excellent development, and actually all of that going for free. That sounds like a really good deal. Don't think black is up for that, really. I don't think he's gonna go for that at all and allow it. So suppose that he plays the move of maybe h6, h5 in there. But then we got g5 on our way. H takes g, knight takes g5. Going back is followed by queen f3. Every single move that we do is more or less forcing and directly attacking. And it's really good. I mean, I want to say that because it is what it is. It's a really, really good move. And it's just not letting him to come out. Now with the pressure on the b7, and with the other threats that we've set against black, we understand that if black plays knight c6, there's bishop e3. And again, black hasn't taken any compensation for whatever. It's bad. Very bad. Now sometimes black will play, okay, let's go with maybe h5 to block. But that also falls during due to the knight g5, knight g4, and then knight d5. Now white's got the threat of bishop f4 coming up, which is beautiful. And then after c6, knight f4. bishop f5, and then there is the g6 candidate that simply breaks down the whole position and everything that black had around that area. You know, with the g6, he's just left terribly with a horrible position around the king set, with more things to worry about and issues to consolidate. He can't do it, so he's got to go with, okay, if he plays queen b4 check, knight d2 and the take, we drive the black queen away and we come back. The point being is that white is just in a very, very good set of like pawn structure and everything. If black accepts the pawn, then white does queen e2, and then there's knight g5 coming out. Knight f7 is beautiful. Black can't just develop in the nicest way he wants to. And then there is more to that, which is definitely happening. So it's bad. Truly bad. So it doesn't work for him. Okay, can't do it. So that's not working either. And then, of course, we could expect that going right back, he will try to do the only thing he can, which is take the pawn. Just take the pawn and do whatever so that this works, right? Well, almost. It's not right, really. Not really. White plays now knight g5, and now every single move that black could try to defend himself is not working. Knight h6 will be met by knight d5 with the incredible bishop f4 attack against the queen and the pawn together. If he plays a move of, say, knight f6, there is h5 to take in. Obviously, the take will leave white with a bishop with a piece pair, knight and bishop, which is very advantageous. Queen c6 is met by d5 and then take, and then black is constantly unable to handle all that's happening on the king set because his pieces are way too bad. You know, it's not about anything else. It's about the pieces, where they are and what they do. He is too bad. So that's why he can't really do whatever he wants to do, simply because his forces are not in condition to deliver whatever he wants to deliver. So, like, actually, after f takes g and knight e6, I don't even need to speak of this position and what it's about. It's just, it's terribly bad. It's awful to even look at, and more awful things are likely going to happen within the next move. So we can see that this knight's going to cut off black's king. The bishop is coming out on the f4, and it's just not good for black, for sure. So after knight g5, essentially we can expect that black's best way would be h5. And now queen f3. You see, the pawn that black takes doesn't really matter, because like he wins that pawn, and yet the fact is that white's able to do anything. He can make moves like f4, he can drive the queen away, he can attack against the c7, and so you could see how bad black is. This is going to be for black. For example, e6 and bishop d3. Of course, we don't take the pawn. That will lead to queen c6, and then some chance for black to come back. But bishop d3 will attack his bishop, and that gets bad for him. If black plays with the move of bishop takes d3, there is a check, takes, and this looks awful. So now if he plays knight c6, we got to take a knight f7 with a fork. That's just not nice, for sure. So there is just a little too much that black has to hold, and I don't believe that he's going to hold it, really. No, it doesn't look like he can. So that's unfortunate. And so actually what we see is that black probably has to do the move of queen f6. That's like one of his only ways to fight back. But of course, after continuing with the move of after playing with that type of move, queen to the f6, it just doesn't work in this case. So like, let's take a look and see. What I believe that black has to do is to play with h5, and then after the move of let's say queen f3, queen f6 in this type of position, and then after continuing with the move of queen f6, white plays with bishop f4, and then I'd say that this is just really bad. There is a knight to the d5 as an idea, as a threat out there, and of course this is amazing. And then just like we have a nice attack, knight d5, have a really powerful variation to attack against the opponent. And then okay, so if black plays the move e6, we have queen takes to the b5 out there. It takes, and then what we do is just knight h3 to defend, and queen takes to a8 alongside castling. It's of course, after continuing with the move of longside castle, white plays white can even bring the other rook right around, and that's just amazing. I mean, it's incredibly strong, it's powerful to look at, and then impossible for black to defend. So that's great. What if black plays c6 though? I mean, he's going to try to protect and keep everything together, right? I mean, like, he can. It's not to say that he can't. He can do that. Unfortunately, right upon that move of c6, white can simply come forward and complete the development by making long side castles. In case of e6, there is rook h to the e1. There's knight d7, a rook e1, and then long side castling. So now it seems like there's this question, okay, what do we do next? We have nice development. We have turned everything in line. But what do we do in this position? And the move that we have in this case is actually really powerful. We have rook e6. This is probably one of the best looking moves to go with, because after that, in case black plays f takes d, white ends him up with a combination going with queen takes to the c6 check, b takes to the c, and then queen takes to bishop takes to a6 checkmate. It's awesome. It's really powerful out there, and see, that's just the way it actually happens in this position. So, so this is very interesting out there. So, like, what we do is we play with bishop, we checkmate him directly. So that's awesome. This is one of the most powerful combination that happens in this case, and it's helping white to destroy. That's all we have to know. So this is probably one of the most exciting lines that I've ever analyzed, because everything was just, I wanted to make sure it's all perfect, and it was. It really was. It's beautifully played, it's very well adjusted, and it's so amazing from the beginning to finish. I hope you like this.